This film of the New York, Westchester, and Boston Railway was taken by Frank Schlegel in October 1937. He photographed the front of the East 180th Street station and office building for his title. These are views in the East 180th Street station. There's a southbound express arriving. Now we're down at the Harlem River Terminal, and we're going to take a ride up the New York, Westchester, and Boston Railway to Portchester. The motorman and the crew of the train are in the view, and the man at the far right is E.J. Quinby, founder of the Electric Railroaders Association. Now we're looking out the front of a New York, Westchester, and Boston train leaving the Harlem River Terminal and heading east. The truss bridges in the far background are the Bronx approach to the Triborough Bridge, which was built in the late 1930s. This is Westchester Avenue Station in the Bronx, heading north, and having crossed under Westchester Avenue, we now cross the Bronx River itself on a drawbridge. The Westchester tracks ran parallel to the New Haven tracks to West Farms Junction, which you see here at East 174th Street, which is that bridge. We've diverged now onto the New York, Westchester, and Boston's own right-of-way. That was a southbound local coming down the ramp. We passed the old Bronx Coliseum, and we're making switching maneuvers here, heading into the East 180th Street station. North of East 180th Street station, we head up the Westchester past the Unionport repair shops, those buildings on the right, and there is the Morris Park station at the south end of the long tunnel under Pelham Parkway. Emerging from the tunnel under Pelham Parkway now, we proceed northward on the express track. We watch one of the semaphore signals change because there's another train on the local track in front of us. East 6th Street Station in Mount Vernon is directly ahead. The train ahead of us is a local train operating on the express track, here seen at East 3rd Street Station in Mount Vernon. Apparently there was a work train or a freight train on the local track that particular day. That southbound train on the left is just arriving at East 3rd Street as we leave. Here is Columbus Avenue Station with the northbound local stopped on the express track. Passengers had to use steps at the end of the high-level platform to get down to the roadbed and cross the local track to reach the local train on the express track. The conductor has closed the gate on the station and has boarded the train, and we're now leaving. This is Webster Avenue Station in New Rochelle. There's North Avenue Tower in New Rochelle, and just beyond it, the North Avenue Station in New Rochelle. Beyond the North Avenue Station, the Westchester tracks extended eastward to rejoin the New Haven Railroad's right-of-way and parallel the New Haven Railroad all the way up to Portchester. We're turning now onto the New Haven's right-of-way. The 4 tracks on the right are the New Haven's main line, and the 2 tracks on the left are the Westchester tracks. That was Pine Brook Station in New Rochelle. Here's a southbound New Haven local train heading down the southbound New Haven local track as we head north on one of the Westchester tracks, leaving Larchmont Station as it was in 1937, and Larchmont Gardens Station. As we leave Larchmont Gardens, we see a single light locomotive heading south on the New Haven. Here's Mamaroneck Station. The high-level platform was used by the Westchester trains. West Street Station, which we just passed, was a local stop in Harrison. And here's the main station in Harrison with the high-level platform for the Westchester trains on the left and the low-level platforms for the New Haven trains on the right. Leaving Harrison now, we head up toward Rye, which was the next station. There's Rye Station with its high-level platform on the left and the low-level platforms for New Haven trains on the right. Southbound locomotives on the New Haven. Here's the Westchester's Portchester Terminal, which was south of Westchester Avenue, while the New Haven's Portchester Station was north of Westchester Avenue in Portchester. Here's a 2-car northbound Westchester train arriving at Portchester, taking the crossover switch and heading up into the station as a New Haven northbound local moves north on the far right. That Westchester train has just come out of Portchester, and looking south from the Portchester Tower, we see the Portchester coach yard for the Westchester trains, now occupied by a shopping center. Saying goodbye to the supervisor at the Portchester Tower, because it was known that the Portchester extension of the line from New Rochelle to Portchester would close at the end of October. Now we're heading back south, looking out the rear of a train, past Larchmont Station and on the viaduct over the Hutchinson River Valley and Parkway between North Pelham and Mount Vernon. We see Mount Vernon Junction here with a coal siding at the left, and then the junction with the White Plains branch where the two double-track branches become one four-track main line. 3 double slip switches and numerous crossovers and single point switches. And now we head south over the New Haven Railroad's right-of-way at Columbus Avenue. Here at East 3rd Street, southbound local on the right and a southbound express on the left have met to exchange passengers. We cross over to the other side as the southbound trains leave, and now we're heading on a northbound local train heading for White Plains. We've left Columbus Avenue Station, and we're taking the crossover leading to the White Plains branch, heading through Mount Vernon Junction once again, this time northbound, and approaching East Lincoln Avenue Station in Mount Vernon. There's a southbound train coming through East Lincoln Avenue. North of East Lincoln Avenue, we proceed through Mount Vernon and into the Waikigill section of New Rochelle. That's the Quaker Ridge Road Bridge over the NYW&B in the far distance. There's the Quaker Ridge Station in the northernmost corner of New Rochelle. There's the sign on the right indicating the border between New Rochelle and Scarsdale, and we approach the Heathcote Station in Scarsdale. Now we're up in White Plains, heading up toward the Gedney Way Station with the coal elevators on the left. This is the Bryant Avenue Bridge in White Plains, and there's the Mamaroneck Avenue Station in the distance. We're beyond Mamaroneck Avenue Station now. The track on the far left led to the White Plains Freight Yard, and these tracks lead down to the Westchester Avenue Terminal of the New York, Westchester, and Boston Railway in White Plains. After the terminal was demolished in the 1940s or 50s, Altman's department store was built on this same site. End of track at White Plains Terminal. There are cars in storage. Normally, one platform with its 2 tracks were used for storage, and the other platform was used for service during the off hours. Now it's after abandonment of the line at the very end of 1937. These views were taken in 1938, 39, and 40. This is at East 6th Street in Mount Vernon, with trees growing up in between the tracks. The whole line was held intact, pending various plans for resuming service. Unfortunately, none of the plans seemed to be workable, so that the courts authorized some of the scrapping to begin in 1940. There's the Chester Heights Station at New Rochelle Road in Eastchester after abandonment, but still standing. This was one of the early stations to be demolished. That arch in the distance is the 5th Avenue Station in North Pelham. That also was one of the early stations to be demolished in Westchester. Now it's somewhat late in 1940 as the wrecking crews have gone to work. Scrapping of the line was finally authorized, and here we see some views near Mount Vernon Junction as the scrappers busily attend to their work, scrapping a line which had been built hardly a quarter of a century earlier. A New Haven 260 Mogul type steam locomotive was used along with numerous flat cars and gondola cars for the scrapping train. There's a Mack Bulldog truck used as the crane truck or derrick truck. One track of the four-track main line was left in place, and one track on each branch was left in place for the scrapping train to use. And then the rails were lifted as the scrapping train moved southward from New Rochelle and from White Plains. That's the curve at Mount Vernon Junction of the New Rochelle and Portchester branch. This is the curve north of Kingsbridge Road in Mount Vernon, looking north. A sprung rail, whether done by the sun's heat or purposely, I can't really tell, but that's near Kingsbridge Road. This is the big steel viaduct over the New Haven's main line at Columbus Avenue in Mount Vernon, with the Westchester's gasoline electric work car involved in scrapping of the line in 1940, possibly early 1941. Looking south from East 6th Street, we see that 3 tracks have already been removed, but one, the southbound express track, remains in place for the scrapping train. Here's the front of East 6th Street station in Mount Vernon, as it appeared during the time the Westchester was running and for many years afterwards. That's gone now too. The deep cut from East 6th Street to East 3rd Street was left in place for a while and then was slowly filled in. Today there's almost nothing that can be seen of it. The single track that was left in place, shown around Kingsbridge Road in Mount Vernon. Another view looking south this time at Kingsbridge Road toward Dyer Avenue, which was just over the border inside New York City. Kingsbridge Road again in Mount Vernon. Now we're in White Plains, looking south from Mamaroneck Avenue at the work train scrapping the line. There's the Bryant Avenue Bridge in the background. As you can see, one track was left in place. The rails have already been lifted from the other track. Mamaroneck Avenue station in White Plains during the scrapping process. And the Westchester Avenue terminal in White Plains, again during the scrapping process. We're looking north up toward Westchester Avenue. Westchester Avenue terminal in White Plains with scrapping in process. One of the electric switch machines used by the Westchester for its turnouts. This is at Heathcote, with the single track remaining in place, the others having been removed. There's the Heathcote Tower in Scarsdale. And there's the Heathcote station as it looked for many years after abandonment, with the platforms and passageways and stairways still in place. The station house remained in place for many years and still exists at the time this is being recorded. But the platforms and passageways were removed to make way for a highway bypass around the Heathcote Five Corners. This is Gedney Way station in White Plains in the process of scrapping. The Westchester's rolling stock was stored on the viaduct south of East 180th Street in the Bronx, where we see it here in the period around 1940 or 41. 50 of the coaches were owned by the New Haven Railroad, which took them back and rebuilt them for non-electric service in the Boston commuter zone. The remainder of the cars were sold eventually to the United States Maritime Commission, which scattered them around various parts of the country during World War II for emergency transport for defense workers. The New Haven's freight locomotive and its work cars eventually went to the New Haven Railroad and have long since been scrapped. This is looking south from East 180th Street with the coaches in storage on the ramp leading down to West Farms Junction near 174th Street. There's a view of the East 180th Street station looking north. A summertime view, obviously. Notice all the awnings on the apartment house windows in those days. And here we have a flashback down at Harlem River Terminal. A flashback to the days when Westchester trains were running. A silhouette of a Westchester train arriving at Harlem River Terminal. April 15th, 1941. The beginning of service on the Dyer Avenue shuttle. 2-car trains of Manhattan elevated cars, all motor cars, were brought up here and placed in service between East 180th Street and Dyer Avenue in order to replace Westchester service, at least on that portion of the line within the New York City limits. Various views down at Mount Vernon Junction and the East 180th Street building, this time without its New York, Westchester, and Boston Railway sign. This is in the late 1940s now, as the 2-car trains of wooden elevated cars continue to shuttle back and forth. That train and this train both are leaving East 180th Street and heading north. Only the former northbound local track was used for this shuttle service. The other 3 tracks were unused except for work train or storage. In this view from the Bronx River Parkway Bridge, then under construction, that northbound shuttle train is heading up past Unionport Shop. This northbound train is approaching the Morris Park station. It's about to cross over Bronxdale Avenue. You can see that the 2 middle tracks, the express tracks, have already been removed, but the 2 local tracks, now fitted with third rail, are still in place. Looking north from Gun Hill Road, there's a northbound Dyer Avenue shuttle train heading up toward Baychester Avenue. And this northbound train is approaching Baychester Avenue. There's the old Baychester Tower still in place. This is before the platforms were extended to accommodate 10-car subway trains. Here's a northbound shuttle train approaching Dyer Avenue station itself. The northbound track and platform were used as the terminal, and the southbound platform stood there abandoned with its track removed. As seen from the Mount Vernon border looking down on it, there's a northbound train arriving at Dyer Avenue with the southbound platform still in place on the right but abandoned. In the 1960s, a high wind blew off the roof of the northbound platform, and this forced the New York City Transit Authority to build a whole new station in this area. Looking out the back of a train leaving Dyer Avenue heading south, we see the abandoned southbound platform on the left and the terminal former northbound platform on the right. We swing over toward the southbound track now, and there's the Boston Post Road trestle, which was rebuilt to this configuration in 1940 or 41 to eliminate several rows of pillars which were traffic hazards in Boston Road. There's a southbound train crossing the Boston Road trestle as a 39 Studebaker Champion passes by. This southbound shuttle train has left Dyer Avenue and is heading south into Westchester Avenue Station, crossing over Westchester Avenue on the bridge in the foreground. Now it's leaving Westchester Avenue and heading south. Next stop will be Gun Hill Road. There's the Westchester Tower, still visible and still standing in this view. Crossing East 222nd Street. As seen from Gun Hill Road, there's a southbound train about to cross under the Gun Hill Road Bridge and stop at Gun Hill Road Station. And a northbound train just leaving Gun Hill Road heading up toward Westchester Avenue. As seen from an apartment building roof in the Bronx, there's a southbound train leaving Morris Park Station and heading south toward East 180th Street, where passengers will transfer to the subway trains.